my friends, welcome back to part 2. We're doing very well. This is looking very nice, I think. Nice subtle greens here and there, nothing too out of the ordinary. Moving on to the bottom down here, all those lovely leaves going across. And this is where we get to have a bit of fun with the palette knife and all of that. I'm going to take my large brush and just give this a very thin coat of like a nice rich brown. Okay, so a little bit of thinners. Let's take some burnt umber and some cadmium red. Let's try a bit of cadmium red as well for the first time. A little bit of cadmium red in there. Let's give this a nice base coat of this colour. Just a very thin layer. See how thin I'm putting this on? It's just to get rid of that white canvas. That's all. That's all it is. It's the only reason. It's just an underpainting, let's call it. A base layer. Just a nice dark, rich brown, so we can start. And let's go up there into that. Now, off in the distance, I'm going to take some Naples yellow for the distant colour, right up there. Naples yellow and a touch of burnt umber. And I'm going to use that colour just off in the distance. Kind of a soft, opaque colour. And I want this almost to kind of disappear into the green slightly, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to very gently kind of tease it up into the green so it disappears and we get this lovely soft edge. And same here, look, we'll drag the green down into the brown. That gives us a lovely soft edge. We don't want any kind of a hard edge along this. I want it to blend seamlessly into the green. Okay, there we go. Now, a little more thinners, a little bit of brown, a little bit of cadmium red, and let's come over here, fill that in, do the very same here, and I'm just being very loose with the brush, just bringing it up, dab, 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 dab it all in there. We have a nice soft colour going off, don't we? Now we can start building up these layers. Let's get some thick cadmium red with burnt umber, and I'm simply going to just, for the distance, you're not going to be able to see each individual leaf really, are you? Let's be honest. It's just going to be a very hazy suggestion of rough ground off there in the distance. Very gently tapping as it goes off into the distance, look. Leave it disappear off into the green as well. Dab, 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 dab. That's what I'm going to do. Bit of burnt sienna, add a bit of warmth in there. Now I am going to go right up into the green here. Want to get that nice soft effect. Okay. We are going quite nicely. This is a lovely tutorial, and I have to say very well done to the photographer for whom I'm painting this. Fantastic photograph. The customer was telling me that they just put the camera right down on the floor and took a photograph, kind of looking up high. And it's just wonderful, isn't it? Amazing what you can do with just a phone these days. It's just amazing, isn't it? I'm going to take some black, start putting some dark spots in here and there. Just again, going along, using this dabbing technique to create all of this lovely texture. All the way along. And once we have finished this, then we can move on to a nice palette knife, yes? I'm just doing this technique really just to create lots of texture on the ground before moving over to a palette knife. That's all. A little bit more magenta. Again, I'm getting pink in here just to complement the green. So I'm going for I'm going to be putting in some light sort of pinky tones and mauvey tones as well. It's not going to be all just kind of a dark brown. So we have the basic, underlayer there, don't we? It's time now to move on to a palette knife. We have different types. I have this one and I have this one, okay? Kind of a curved one and one with a sharp edge. I think we'll try the one with the curve on it first, this nice small little palette knife. I'm going to go into, looking at the reference photograph now, it's kind of a deep pinky colour, isn't it? I'm going to try some magenta, a little Naples yellow, and a little black. I think that's going to give us that kind of deep, it's like a deep black pinky shade, isn't it? I'm going to go with this first. Maybe a touch of burnt umber as well. Now I'm mixing small little bits at a time. I just want to get this right first before I start mixing lots of thick paint. And I'm simply, look, going on, and I'm just going to kind of scrape this and dab it and all of that, just to get this colour onto the canvas first. And remember, I'm going to be building this up now very kind of thickly, but I'm starting off just carefully with some subtle shades first, okay? Again, a little bit of black in there, a bit of brown, a bit of magenta. We could take some burnt sienna. Basically, now come on, let's just have a bit of fun with all of this. Let's just pop lots of thick paints in, and I'm just kind of scraping it and scratching it in all different ways, simply just to add a bit of texture. Let's get some more burnt sienna and maybe a touch of cadmium red as well. Look, come on. It's autumn. There's going to be all these lovely rich colours, dark and light and all of that going on. And you're mixing it on the canvas. I'm not really mixing it too much on the palette. I'm allowing all these kind of little shades of colour to mix together on the canvas. Let's go in there to some burnt sienna. Pick up a bit of burnt sienna. And you can see how I'm just literally creating suggestions of little bits of leaves on the ground. Now I always tend to go for the darker shades first, and then I kind of put in my highlights afterwards. That's kind of generally how I work. I'm going to take some more burnt sienna and a little Naples yellow perhaps. Go up here and pop some of that in, very faintly off in the distance. Just kind of tap, 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 tap with the knife, just to create lots of this texture. And look, come on, let's just simply have a bit of fun. Isn't that right? I go into magenta, a bit of cadmium red, and I think I might put some of this in. Magenta with cadmium red, a nice pinky shade, even a hint of Naples yellow. And we get this nice rich kind of a rich pink on there as well. Just leave that dance around again on the canvas. Remember, I keep telling myself I'm not painting actual individual leaves now and all of this. I'm just putting my palette knife down and giving a suggestion of lots of leaves on the floor. That's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just being very loose with all of this. Okay. I mean, even as it is, it doesn't look too bad. I am going to go into some burnt umber and a little black. I think we need a fair bit of dark down around the front here, don't we? So let's just keep going with this dark section down here. Get it nice and dark as it comes to us, or closer to us rather. And I'll have to get more burnt umber on my palette in just a moment. But I'm just going along now again and just popping that in. I'll get some burnt umber for my palette. Okay, and there it is. This part of the painting is the most fun, I think. This is what really brings out the artistic side in people, I find. Get some burnt umber. You know, it can be slightly stressful when you're painting these areas of a painting, you know, the part with all the detail. But when you come to this section where it's just a palette knife and lots of paint, this is where it gets really fun and interesting. Now, a little bit of cadmium red in there, get some nice red colours going on. Again, some burnt umber. And I'm just sitting back now taking a look. I'm going to make the leaves a little bit kind of bigger as they come down towards the front here. I just want to make more of an impact with them, okay? A bit of black, just making big, chunkier sweeps with the palette knife. So, as it is, I think that's not too bad. I'm going to just take a bit of black and a little bit of blue, right? And I'm just simply at the bottom here. I just want to create the impression of dark sides of one or two leaves. Just simply popping it on, just kind of randomly twisting the palette knife in different directions. Does that make sense? I just want to get some real big ones. And just leave that kind of filter off, very gently off into the distance. Now, it's time for a few highlights. Now, highlights, I'm looking at that and I can see a very light blue. A very soft blue with a hint of a kind of a pinky shade in there as well. So I'm first going to take some phthalo blue with white, all right? Then a touch of magenta. Now let's try this and see what happens. Let's just try it. Let's just pretend there's a few highlights on some of these. I'm just going to kind of swoop the palette knife just around in little scrapes and little curves. Look, I'm just kind of curving it up and down and left and right and all that. And we can do a few kind of going off into the distance as well, very gently, tap, 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 just to suggest the light kind of catching the tops of some of these leaves on the ground. And let's just dab that away off into the distance. Now how's that? No, that's not too bad, is it? I might just take a little magenta. If you feel you want to, sorry, not magenta, burnt sienna. If you feel you need to maybe just turn them down slightly here and there, just pop a little touch of sienna or something like that just over them, here and there. If you think it's maybe a little bit too bright, that's easy to fix, isn't it? Then I'm going to try burnt sienna with some Naples yellow. And that's a beautiful autumn colour too, isn't it? Let's just get a little touch of that light warmth in there as well. You see that nice, that's a lovely colour now, isn't it? Let's just dab that off, go up there and let's pop a little bit here and there. Again, it's just to give the impression of separated, little separated leaves. Now, I am happy enough with that. I don't know, does that need much more? We could maybe add more definition into some of them if you want. Let's try cadmium red with some Naples yellow. I've kind of a very lightish type of a pink here. Cadmium red, Naples yellow, and we could maybe try and define some of them a little bit. As they just come closer to us. And this may or may not work, but as I always say, you're never going to know until you try. You have to try, don't be afraid to try. Look, maybe even a bit of cadmium yellow, why not? Small touch cadmium yellow mixed in with that cadmium red, and it's just kind of mixing on the canvas and just sort of swirling it around and just trying to create a bit of texture, that's all. Now I'm going to move on and just put in a man standing off in the distance. I'm going to take some black, okay? He's in silhouette, so I don't think we need much colour on him, on this person, but I don't know, maybe a touch, maybe a hint of a blue or something like that, just kind of a dark grey. We'll start with a dark grey and we can go from there. So let's just go straight down for the back like this. It kind of comes out a bit and goes in by the knee. Then we have just around here, comes out and it goes back in. and it comes down like that. I'm just looking carefully at the photograph. Okay, and look, if we want to darken it, we can darken it. Get some black in there. He's kind of standing at a funny angle, isn't he? There's a very funny angle there. And I'm just trying to get it some way similar. It's never going to be exact, but I'll try and get it somewhere similar anyway. And I'll take a little bit of skin colour. I'm thinking maybe just Naples yellow, a bit of this burnt umbery type colour. And just kind of suggest a bit of a head there. Maybe let's get some burnt umber. Darken that down just a little. This is very fuzzy in the photograph. This is all very fuzzy, so it's difficult to see. I'm almost kind of making this up as I go along. Maybe a little bit of hair. I don't know, is it a hair or kind of a hat or something he's wearing? I don't know, it looks, I can't really see. I think I'll go with that. And there's what looks like a dog next to him, a black dog. This again is very suggestive, okay? Very, very suggestive. I'm just going to put the impression of something black down in here, okay? You know, you can make up your own minds as to what that is. And then I am maybe I'll stick a little highlight on the dog up here just to act as a separator, and maybe a little touch of a light here. It could be anything, bit of a hand or something. Now you probably can't even see this on camera, but I think I've captured the feeling. I might need a bit more black for the pants actually, just make this a little thicker. Like that. Then I grab a fan brush and I'm simply just going to use a bit of colour to sit that person down on the ground. So I'll just take a little dark colour, touch of black even, just go along the base and the base of the dog just to sit them down. Like so. Now, my friends, I think that's quite nice. I'm quite happy with that. Is there anything else you think we could do? This is the part of the painting where you need to be very careful. I think you need to be really careful with this part of the painting, because this is the part where you can make mistakes and makes an absolute mess of things. Maybe just put one or two highlights in here and there. You could even use, I could even just get some black on my knife, lots of black on my pointy brush, and just pop in suggestion of one or two darks here and there. It's really just, I just wanted to look like there's a lot going on the ground. That's all I want to get at. maybe even a hint of a nice deep rich red, because all these colours are mixing on the canvas. That's what we want. We want a nice colourful canvas, don't we? And my friends, I'm calling this finished. I am going to say it's finished. I'm happy with this. I'm quite happy with how this has turned out, actually, very happy. I might just over on this corner here pop in a touch of highlight just along the top here, just to soften that off a little bit. And maybe just rough up the edges up there as well, just rough it up very slightly. And there we are. I'm calling this finished, my friends. I really hope you have enjoyed watching this. Let me see now if I can get myself into the angle of the camera as well. There we are. Now I also have a frame. Where is my frame? I have one here. It's not finished, it's not painted properly, it just needs another coat of paint. Let me just pop this on and have it, give you a rough idea of what it's going to look like framed. Let me just clean off little bits there. How about that? Now, there we go. That's quite a nice painting, isn't it? I'm happy with that. Very, very happy. And I hope the customer will be happy as well. I'll let you know how we get on, okay? That's it, my friends. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope you've learned something and had a bit of fun along the way. And I hope you've learned to just kind of keep it simple and grab brushes and knives and just go for it, have a bit of fun. Try not to overthink details. I know when you see a photograph like that, immediately you start looking at all the little details, all the tiny, tiny details. And you get kind of sucked into the photograph and you get lost in all those details. I typically just look at a scene, look at the colours and the shapes, and I just try and keep it simple, and I try and keep it kind of light-hearted and not too serious. And I think it works, because all I want to go for is a kind of a loose impression, a nice impression of a scene. It doesn't have to, you know, it doesn't have to show every single little branch and twig and leaf, rock and all that. It doesn't have to show every single little detail. Just keep it loose. A nice impression, I think, is much nicer. Because nature is changing constantly. You know, if it looks like this today, tomorrow it might look slightly different, and in a week's time it might look completely different again. So just an impression, you know, have a bit of fun. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe if you haven't done so. You're missing a lot. You are missing a lot. I'll see you again next week, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. God bless and happy painting.